Welcome to Money Talks. This week we'll be talking about credit cards, understanding credit card debt, cash advances and balance transfers. As amazing as it seems, most people do not understand credit card debt. They see a refrigerator and they think, oh, it's only $10 a month for the refrigerator. We can afford that, can't we? They don't think in terms of how much money is on their credit cards as a total amount. They just see it as another sum of money they'll have to come up with each month. And while $10 a month may sound reasonable and doable, that $10 a month added to what they already owe may tally into the thousands of dollars. What they also may not understand is that $10 a month is going towards a $700 refrigerator. By the time it's paid off, they'd have been able to buy 3 refrigerators for all the finance charges they had to pay over the years. I know a woman who only bought merchandise that was on sale. Whether she needed it or not, if it was on sale, she bought it. She had a closet full of clothing that she'd bought over the years, most of which she'd never worn, but they were all on sale, so she bought them. And with each blouse or dress she added to her collection in her closet, I kept hearing her tell me about the wonderful bargain she'd got and how much money she'd saved. These articles of clothing stayed in her closet unworn for years at a time, while she stuck to just a few outfits that felt comfortable on her. She was struggling to pay her bills, and I said to her, stop shopping. And she said, that's the only thing my husband and I enjoy doing together. I told her that she and her husband needed to develop another hobby. They did. They started eating gargantuan amounts of food, so she couldn't even get into any of her bargain clothing. This went on for several years. When she lost her job and couldn't find employment, I started to counsel her on her spending habits. I wanted to know what she needed at a bare minimum to survive. Part of me was afraid to ask her how much her credit card debt amounted to, but I did anyway. When she told me she'd racked up $50,000, it took everything inside me not to let out a loud gasp in shock. I then proceeded to give her financial counselling for many years after that. And now I'm pleased to say that she's free of credit card debt, and she even has $4,000 in her savings account. Credit cards are very seductive. When they first came into existence, people used them for the purpose for which they were intended, as emergency funds. Your car breaks down, you've no cash, no savings, nothing that you could use to pay the tow truck to come and rescue you for the repairs that are needed at a service station. So you whipped out your trusty little credit card that was on hand just for an emergency. And you breathed a huge sigh of relief when they put on a new fan belt or a new radiator or a new tyre to replace the one that had just blown. And that's what credit cards were supposed to be used for. But over the years, people have become very irresponsible with their finances. These credit cards are no longer being used just for emergencies by most people. They're being used for a better way of life, a higher standard of living, expensive purchases that they don't really need. And the credit card debt just keeps going up and up and up. And they pay no attention to it as long as they can make their payments. When they're laid off from their job or fired, and their income goes out the window, they suddenly become aware of payments that they cannot meet. And still, it doesn't occur to them that they've become credit card junkies. When they're facing bankruptcy, and they have to go for consumer counselling and all their credit card debts are taken away from them, while the credit card counsellor negotiates with the credit card companies for manageable payments, it's like having withdrawal symptoms. And never underestimate the fact that they're not only having financial withdrawal symptoms, but emotional ones as well. Because now they cannot see a way of life that doesn't feel hopeless. To illustrate this point, during the Cuban Missile Crisis of October '62, the people in Miami, Florida were only 90 miles away from Cuba when the threat of being bombed and blown out of existence became a very real possibility. Emotions ran high, people panicked, and the main attitude of the residents was, if I'm going to die, I might as well enjoy my last few days. They rushed to the stores in droves. They charged all kinds of luxury items on their credit cards because they never really expected to have to pay them off. After all, if they were going to be bombed, they wouldn't have to pay the consequences, so they might as well enjoy themselves. They bought television sets, they bought boats, they bought cars. They bought all the things that they never could have afforded if they lived to be over 100. The Cuban crisis was averted. Miami stayed intact. People went on with their lives. Except one vast difference. Now they had credit card debt up to their eyeballs. They had big ticket items that they couldn't afford and wouldn't be able to use. They had small ticket items too, but a great many of them, again, with purchases that were totally unnecessary, extravagant, and way beyond their budget. The economy of that state was in great jeopardy. People's homes were foreclosed, their cars and their boats were repossessed, and people were out on the street. Businesses went under when their customers couldn't afford to pay their debts. Now, if we look at what took place in 1962, a little under 40 years ago, and we multiply that by many millions of dollars more, we get to see the beginnings of what would eventually affect a global economy. So to summarise, be aware that your minimum monthly payment may seem to be a small amount, but you're paying several times over the original purchase price for your goods. Learn to use your credit cards only for emergencies and nothing else. And don't incur any more debt than you already have. Don't go away. I'll be right back.